In these perilous times, see from current events how biblical prophecy is coming to pass in front of our eyes. You're watching In the Last Days, the program that looks at Israel and the end times with teaching from a Hebraic perspective. With Martin and Natalie Blackham, thank you to our friends and partners who make this program possible. Now, here's Martin and Natalie.
Hi, welcome to the In the Last Days television program with myself, Martin Blackham. Natalie's behind the scenes today, but she says hello to you. We're the program that looks at Israel, the news and features from Israel. And today we have a very special guest in the studio, David Rubin, who is a commentator on the news. So we're going to be examining his new book, Sparks from Zion, fresh off the bookshelf, a book that you need on your bedside cabinet, Sparks from Zion with David Rubin. So thank you, David, so much coming in today and telling us about your new book. And you've just come back from the United States, from North America, and you've been speaking in different churches. And if people would like to invite you, I think they can get in touch with you through the website.
Sure. They can go to the website, davidrubinisrael.com, and they can certainly be in touch. And I am open to speaking wherever there are opportunities to speak and get a message out to people.
So David is originally from New York in the United States. He's a former mayor of Shiloh in Israel. He's the author of the Islamic Tsunami and Peace for Peace, and has extensive knowledge about terrorism, Israel, and the American-Israeli relationship. He's a frequent guest commentator on television and radio news channels, including Fox News and Fox Business News, Newsmax, and CBN News. And you are now a regular contributor, I've noticed, on Arut Sheva and the Israel National News, the website there.
Yes, israelnationalnews.com. I have a regular blog, and write op-eds as well. And in fact, my latest book, Sparks from Zion, is a compilation of my best articles and blogs.
So if you'd like to get a hold of David's book, on the screen is the website you can go to. It's davidrubinisrael.com, I believe.
That's it.
And if you go to that now, you can order David's book, Sparks from Zion. If you're not able to use the computer, do ask a member of your family or a friend who can help you get hold of the book. I think it'll really be important for you. So maybe you can tell us a bit about what they can read in the book, David. What things you've dealt with in the book.
Well, my book, Sparks from Zion, is a journey through the land of Zion, through a year in Israel. And for those of your viewers who don't know, Zion is another word for Israel. Okay, it actually has several different meanings. When we talk about the land of Zion, we're talking about the land of Israel. Sometimes when we talk about Zion, we're just talking about Jerusalem. And in some cases, in the Jewish ancient sources, Zion just refers to the Holy of Holies on the Temple Mount. But in general, it's talking about Israel, and that's where the term Zionism comes from. Zionism, of course, being the movement of Israel to return to its land, and which is the miraculous event that has happened, that has been happening for the past 150 years in the land of Israel. So, in the book Sparks from Zion, I'm taking the reader on a journey through about a year and a half in Israel, with all the events that have happened in these past couple of years. I mean, it's just amazing when you think about it. From the Boston Marathon, from the Boston terrorist attack, to the other terrorist attacks that have occurred in Israel, the problem of ISIS, the spread of Islamic fundamentalism that arose from the so-called Arab Spring, the so-called peace process, what people have called the peace process, but really is a war process on Israel, And what is this all about, the West Bank and the settlement, the Israeli settlements, and the threat from Iran? You know, a lot of this people don't understand.
They can get hold of the book. You can get hold of this book, and you can read all about that. They can get information.
And I've been told that it's a very clear and readable style. Okay, this is what the book reviewers say. We just had a book review in the Jerusalem Post a few days ago, and everyone says it's a clear, readable style of writing, and people can, even if they don't fully understand what's happening in the Middle East and in Israel, once they're done with Sparks from Zion, they'll understand much better.
Now, I think one of the important things for them to know is that you were the mayor of Shiloh in Israel, called Shiloh in the Hebrew, and it's in Samaria, and Judea and Samaria. Some people call the West Bank, but that area was actually given to Israel as part of the partition plan with the under the mandate, wasn't it? And so the history of that area is that it was given to the Jewish people, and then there was a war, and Jordan invaded and occupied the land, and that's where the name the West Bank, because they called it the West Bank. And
they didn't call it the West Bank when they had it. That's what's fascinating about it. The land of Israel was being called Palestine for those 1900 years after the Romans gave it that fictional term. And then when Israel started coming back into the land in the late 19th century, and gradually increasing, more and more Jews coming home, in the 1920s, the League of Nations chopped off 77% of the historic land of Israel. They handed it to one of the royal family from the Hashemite kingdom in the Saudi Arabian Peninsula. They brought him down, King Abdullah, and they put him on the throne. And eventually after that came King Hussein, and now his son, King Abdullah, the second King Abdullah. But that country east of the Jordan River, which is now called Jordan, was never a country before the 1920s. And it only became a country because there was pressure from the Arab world not to give Israel all of the land of Israel.
And that was actually given to the Jewish people.
In the Balfour Declaration in 1917, it was declared to be part of the land of Israel. And of course, go back a little bit further to a book called the Bible that made it very clear that all of that is part of the land of Israel, plus some. I don't think that we need to pay too much attention to these false claims of sovereignty over the land of Israel, but it's important to know the terms and to understand where the terms come from. And the term the West Bank came from the Arab world after Israel had recaptured the Judea, the region of Judea south of Jerusalem, the region of Samaria north of Jerusalem, the Golan Heights region in the north of Israel, the Sinai Desert and the Gaza Strip in the south of Israel and eastern Jerusalem, of course. All of those areas came back into Israel's hands in the 1967 Six-Day War. Okay, we won the war in 6 days, and on the seventh day we rested. Now, those things don't just happen per chance. It's not just an accident of nature. Okay, it is part of a divine plan over Israel, over the Middle East, that Israel is to return to its land, reclaim its sovereignty gradually over the land of Israel. So after 1967 and the Six-Day War, then the Arab nations started to call Judea, and Samaria, the West Bank. Because at that point, they wanted to do like the Romans. How does the expression go? When in Rome, do as the Romans do. When in land that had been conquered by the Romans, they decided to do as the Romans did. And instead of changing the land from Israel to Palestina, they decided to change the biblical heartland of Israel, Samaria and Judea, to the West Bank. Kind of saying that, well, it's the West Bank of the Jordan River, and even though a bank of a river isn't up in the mountains as we are, but okay, we'll forgive them that ignorance. But the bottom line is that this is our land. Okay, this is take an old American patriotic song. This land is our land, and from the Mediterranean Sea to the Euphrates River, from the Nile River to the Lebanon. Okay, this land was made for you and me. That's how that song went. But that's how God's song goes in the land of Israel.
And even legally, the Levy Committee, which met, and we've had Ambassador Alan Baker on, and he's talked about this, that legally speaking, this land belongs
to
the Jewish people.
Look, I love when people feel that they need to justify it in the legal historical sense. Well, I say that you can justify it in every sense. Okay, if people have a problem with me saying that this is our land because God gave it to us and it's clearly written in the Bible, well, then we can also explain it from a historical sense. We can explain it, as you were saying, that legally the land of Israel was given to Israel by the League of Nations, and that it's very clear that this land is ours. We could also explain it from the moral sense. Okay, if we look at it from the point of view that we're supposed to create this Palestinian state for a nation that never existed, this Muslim nation that never existed called Palestine, we're supposed to create a state for them because it's the right thing to do. Well, why is it the right thing to do? We're talking about a nation of terrorists. Sure, not every single Arab Muslim who lives in the land of Israel is a terrorist, and I realize there are some Christians, and not too many. They're quietly being extinguished by the Muslims. But I think that there is nothing moral about handing over the biblical heartland of Israel, Israel's historical homeland, to a group of armed terrorists, which is what the Palestinian Authority is. The Hamas terrorist organization is no better than ISIS in ideology. The Fatah terrorist organization, well, they may wear some nice ties like I'm wearing today, but they're just as much Islamic terrorists who believe in jihad and holy war against all non-Muslims as the Hamas terrorists or ISIS do. So there's nothing moral about creating such a state. And if you want to look at the Middle East, if you're passionate about creating a state, a new state in the Middle East, so look over at Kurdistan, and I think the Kurds may be a country that deserves to have a new state. But I certainly don't think that the Arab Muslims who live in the land of Israel deserve anything.
So you can get hold of David's book, Sparks from Zion, at davidisrael.com.
davidrubinisrael.com.
davidrubinisrael.com. You can order the book. And how have you set the book out, David? What can they expect when they...
Well, it's chronological. There was some discussion with my editors. Well, do we arrange all of these articles in a topical way, but it just seemed like for this particular book it worked best to just have it run chronological. So there are a lot of issues that we discuss that I wrote about, the problem of renewed anti-Semitism in Europe, And the Muslim growth, the Islamic threat to Europe as a whole, I wrote about, and I also wrote about Israel, of course, and all the events in Israel, the elections, the internal issues in Israel, the internal politics in Israel. I followed the war in Gaza from the beginning to the end, and I basically was a cheerleader and a critic for the Israeli government during that war. There were some things that we did that were right. There were a lot of things that we did that was wrong, that were wrong. Then we go onward, and we see where Israel goes from here.
And the viewers at home, they can pick this up, and can they just pick out articles, or is it?
Oh, sure. I've been told by some people that yes, it's chronological, and it's nice to go in order and see. You really feel like you're traveling through a year in Israel. But there are some people who've told me that what they like about it is that each article is anywhere from 1 to 3 pages long, and they can just pick out particular topics that interest them, and to read about those topics and then jump around from topic to topic.
And I want to talk a bit about what's happening, because there's so many things, but they're kind of linked in a way. For example, we have Islamic terrorism growing in the world, but the strange thing is nobody wants to call it that. We had the attack in France, in Paris, against the magazine, the Charlie Hebdo, the magazine, and also against the kosher supermarket. Do you think that anti-Semitism is growing, or is it is that a phenomenon?
There is no question about it, that it's growing, but I don't think that it's the old European anti-Semitism. I don't think we can trace it back to the Nazi movement. And very often people do that. They make that mistake. They say, well, the old anti-Semitism is rising again in Europe. I think that what the main anti-Semitism that's rising in Europe is an Islamic anti-Semitism. As the Muslim population grows in Europe, we're going to see more and more anti-Semitism and attacks against Jews and attacks against Israel.
And in America, there's also the threat of Islam, which has been, again, people have tried to avoid that. In fact, somebody was even beheaded by a Muslim in a factory, and that news story I couldn't even find it in very many places.
Well, people are afraid. People are afraid for it to show up in the media and to be too prominent. The Obama administration in Washington is afraid for people to start using the term Islamic terrorism. They prefer to put their heads in the sand and pretend that there is no Islamic terrorism, that terrorism is just something that lies in a vacuum. Well, terrorism isn't an enemy. Terrorism is a strategy, and we need to understand that the terrorism didn't just spring up, didn't just sprout up from the earth for no reason. It is a natural result of jihad, the philosophy of jihad, which lies at the core of Islam. Jihad, which means holy war against all non-Muslims. And when you have terrorism, you have a religious justification for that terrorism in jihad. And that's why every terrorist organization is an Islamic terrorist organization. I haven't heard of the terrorist organization Baptist Jihad. Okay, but there is a terrorist organization called Islamic Jihad, and there is the Hamas and the Hezbollah and the Fatah and the Boko Haram and on and on and on. The Hezbollah, the Taliban. These are all terrorist organizations, and they're all Islamic. Okay, so do we put our heads in this Middle East sand that we have in abundance here, or do we pretend that what's happening is really not Islamic? No, I say we look the snake in the eye, and we call it what it is.
And it's becoming more. What's the right way of putting it? It's becoming more overt in a way, because in Texas, where they had a conference, people were gathering together to meet about, and of course the media said about the cartoon of Muhammad, but actually it was a conference on...
We know all about the cartoon, and we know all about that video. You know, I remember the attack on the American embassy in Benghazi. You know, and Hillary Clinton, you remember her, right? Bill Clinton's, yep. Okay, so Hillary Clinton, who's busy right now trying to hide her emails from the American public, she also was hiding something else back then in Benghazi, and there was a clear Islamic terrorist attack on the United States of America and on the free world. And she was busy claiming that it was all about some fourth-rate video that some amateur filmmaker had come up with criticizing Islam. I think we have to look, as I said, look the snake in the eye, call it what it is. It's called Islamic terrorism. It comes from the core of Islam, the philosophy of jihad, holy war against all non-Muslims. That's philosophy that the founder of Islam, Muhammad, espoused. And it's very dangerous. And the world has to wake up. The Western world had better wake up quickly.
We've got David Rubin in the studio today, and we're looking at the book Sparks from Zion, David's new book. Now, David, in the book you mention about the war in Gaza, the Operation Protective Edge. Do you think that now, as we're in the studio today, things have changed there? Do you think that the Hamas have become peaceful, and there's what do you think's happening behind the scenes?
That's right. The leaders of Hamas, Khalid Mashal, and they're all putting flowers in their hair, tulips in their hair, and they are becoming hippies. I think it's just an amazing thing that they've decided that jihad is no longer going to be a philosophy in the Hamas ideology, and that they're going to become bedfellows of Israel and sing the old John Lennon song, "Imagine the world at peace." Well, no, I'm sorry to say it's not happening. The Hamas is the Hamas, as it always was, and they are just as violent in their jihad philosophy, and they are just as determined to destroy Israel. The rockets that recently landed on Israeli cities are testimony to that. And I think we're going to see about 2 years from the last Hamas war on Israel, and we're going to there'll be another war, because they have this philosophy of wanting to refuel. You know, they'll have a war, then they will complain to the world about Israeli brutality. How dare Israel have only 20 casualties when we have 1,000 casualties, and they say, well, that, you know, Israel is fighting an unfair battle here, and then they'll get to work. They'll start refueling, restocking their weapons, buying weapons from the Western world and from other countries, getting some more billions from Saudi Arabia and other peaceful Muslim countries. And then they're ready for war again, and they start launching the rockets and waiting for Israel to attack. Then they'll start crying foul again. This is the game that they play.
And in Islamic philosophy, they have a thing called the Hudna, where it's a peace treaty, but it's not like we would imagine in the West, a peace treaty where people are trying to live together again. It's a peace treaty merely to rebuild,
for the
from
next
weapons.
war. That's
In
right.
other words, to rearm. That's all since the last war, all they can think about is rearming for the next war.
That's right. That's right. And I'm fully expecting that there's going to be a next war, probably in the next couple of years. I'm not sure exactly when, but it is coming. It is coming.
And
so when I speak about sparks from Zion, believe me, there are going to be more sparks from Zion. The sparks from the Islamic world will be launched against us again, causing many fires, many explosions, and many deaths. And hopefully the light of Israel, that spark from Zion, which is the prophetic spark, will shine greater as time goes on.
Well, it's been great to have you in the studio today. Thank you so much for coming in, David.
You're welcome.
If you'd like to get a hold of the book, you've been watching the program today and you say, how can I get hold of this book, Sparks from Zion, the new book from David Rubin? They can just go to the website, which is davidrubinisrael.com. That's on the screen at the moment. You can go there and they can order the book. And not only is it getting information, not only will you receive information that you need, but there will be also supporting the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund.
That's right. All net proceeds go to the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund to heal the trauma of the terror victim children and to rebuild the biblical heartland of Israel.
So you can order that book today and have that information. I know there's people in the small groups who are watching all over the United Kingdom who are doing teaching, and this is a very good book that you could do with your group. So do get hold of that today. It's been great to be with you. Don't forget you can email us at info@inthelastdays.com. You can visit the website www.inthelastdays.com. It's because of your support that we're able to do this program today. And remember, we're living in the last days.
You've been watching In the Last Days, a TV program with Martin and Natalie Blackham, the program that looks at Israel and the end times with teaching from a Hebraic perspective. If you would like to financially support the program or find out about conferences, meetings, or ministry products, then please contact us with the details on your screen. Visit our easy-to-use website at www.inthelastdays.com and register for our free e-newsletter. Get the latest news from Israel, product information, online video teaching, or watch today's TV program at a time that's convenient to you. Thank you again, friends and partners, for making this program possible.
See you same time, same station for the next program from In the Last Days.